Have you ever felt that the more you try to fight anxiety or intense emotions, the stronger they seem to get? This battle can feel endless, but the truth is, avoiding or suppressing feelings only amplifies the suffering. In this video, you'll learn why resisting emotions is a paradox and discover practical strategies to process them in a healthy way, reducing anxiety and finding balance. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more tips on mental health and well-being. Let's dive in. The more we fight our emotions, the more intense they tend to become. It sounds contradictory, but this is the well-known emotional paradox. Trying to avoid or suppress uncomfortable feelings, like anxiety, only amplifies them. Think of it as a tank full of sharks. Imagine you're trying to balance inside it, fighting with all your strength to keep the sharks at bay. The more you stir the water, the closer the sharks come. That's exactly how it works when we resist our emotions. The harder we try to push them away, the stronger they become. Another powerful analogy is tug-of-war with a monster. Your uncomfortable emotions are the monster on the other end of the rope. The harder you pull, the harder it pulls back, and the ongoing struggle only leaves you exhausted and frustrated. But what if you simply let go of the rope? Instead of fighting, allowing the monster to be there without directly confronting it reduces the emotional impact. This constant battle drains your energy and creates a cycle of frustration. By understanding that resisting emotions only gives them more power, we can begin to make space for healthier approaches. When dealing with intense emotions, it's common to try escaping them through avoidance strategies. At first, these tactics may seem harmless or even helpful, but in the long run, they can become traps that worsen emotional distress. Avoidance can take many forms. Distractions, diving into your phone, binge-watching shows, or focusing on irrelevant tasks to avoid facing your emotions. Addictions, seeking comfort in alcohol, food, shopping, or even overworking as a way to numb difficult feelings. Procrastination, delaying important decisions out of fear of the emotional discomfort they might bring. Catastrophizing, imagining worst-case scenarios as a way to prepare emotionally, which in reality only increases anxiety. These strategies create a dangerous cycle. The emotion we try to avoid doesn't go away. It gets bottled up and grows stronger. On top of that, the short-term relief reinforces the avoidance behavior, making it a hard habit to break. Imagine a pressure cooker. If you block the release valve, the pressure only builds up until the pot eventually explodes. Your emotions work the same way. By avoiding them, you're not solving the problem, just delaying the inevitable. Often, without realizing it, we adopt behaviors that make it even harder to process our emotions. These mistakes are common, but learning to identify them is the first step to improving how we handle our feelings. Judging your emotions. Phrases like, "I shouldn't feel this way," or "Why am I so weak?" often pop up when we classify emotions as good or bad. This judgment creates resistance and makes you feel even worse. Emotions aren't good or bad. They're natural signals from your body about what's happening around you. Suppressing feelings. You've probably heard the phrase, "hold back your tears." Suppressing emotions might seem effective in the short term, but over time, they manifest in other ways, like physical tension, insomnia, or even mental health issues such as chronic anxiety or depression. Blaming or shaming yourself. Telling yourself, "I'm weak for feeling this," or "I should have more control," only adds to the emotional pain. This self-criticism traps you in a cycle of shame and guilt, making it even harder to embrace your emotions. Catastrophizing. Jumping to the worst-case scenario, like assuming that an anxiety symptom means you have a serious illness, intensifies the feeling of despair and amplifies both physical and emotional symptoms. Excessively monitoring your emotions. Constantly paying attention to your symptoms or feelings can ironically make them worse. It's as if you're repeatedly signaling to your brain that something is wrong, increasing your anxiety. These mistakes are common but solvable. Throughout this video, we'll explore alternatives to help you shift your relationship with your emotions. When we spend years fighting against our emotions, the consequences eventually show up both in the mind and body. Constant suppression doesn't eliminate feelings. It only hides them temporarily, and there's always a price to pay. Impact on physical health. Prolonged suppression of emotions can lead to muscle tension. Your body stays in a constant state of alertness, causing chronic pain in areas like the neck, shoulders, and back. Heart problems. Frequent release of stress hormones like cortisol puts extra strain on the heart. Immune system issues. Repressing emotions can lead to autoimmune diseases or a weakened immune response. Burnout and exhaustion. The continuous fight against emotions drains an enormous amount of mental energy. Have you ever felt burnout even when you haven't done much physically? That's a sign your mind is overloaded from resisting your feelings. Addiction and dependence cycles. To avoid or numb uncomfortable feelings, many people turn to habits like drinking, overeating, shopping, or even overworking. While these behaviors provide temporary relief, they perpetuate the cycle of emotional suffering. Risk of mental health issues. Constantly repressing emotions can lead to generalized anxiety, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). Both your mind and body eventually reach their limits under the weight of so many unprocessed feelings. Recognizing these consequences is crucial for motivating change. If fighting intense emotions only makes things worse, how can we handle them in a healthier way? The key is learning to welcome and process your emotions instead of avoiding them. Here are some effective alternatives. Emotional processing. Allow yourself to feel. Emotions serve a purpose. Sadness may signal that you need support, while anxiety can alert you to something important. Take a moment to identify what you're feeling and ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Practice willingness. Accepting your emotions doesn't mean liking them, but acknowledging them as part of the human experience. Picture your emotions as waves in the ocean. They come and go. The more you resist, the more energy you use. Let the wave pass. Redirect your attention. When an uncomfortable emotion arises, acknowledge it, but choose to focus on what's most important. For example, instead of dwelling on anxiety, shift your attention to a task that brings you purpose or joy. This isn't distraction. It's prioritizing what adds value to your life. Let go of the rope. Remember the tug-of-war analogy with the monster? Letting go of the rope means stopping the fight and accepting the emotion's presence without feeding its intensity. Remind yourself, I can handle this, even if it's uncomfortable right now. Tools to regulate emotions. Deep breathing. A simple practice to reduce physical symptoms of anxiety. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for 6 seconds. Therapeutic writing. Write down your feelings. Often, putting emotions into words lessens their intensity. Physical movement. Activities like walking, yoga, or any form of exercise help process emotions stored in your body. These strategies won't eliminate emotions, but they will help you create space to deal with them more calmly and constructively. Some professions require individuals to suppress their emotions daily to handle high-pressure situations. Police officers, doctors, firefighters, and even teachers often have to swallow their feelings to stay functional. However, this comes at a steep cost in the long run. Example: police officers frequently need to make quick decisions in critical situations where expressing emotions might compromise safety. While this suppression can be useful in the moment, its long-term effects are significant. Accumulated stress. Unprocessed emotions lead to mental overload, resulting in emotional exhaustion. Risk of addictions. Alcohol use as a release valve is common among professionals who regularly repress their feelings. Relationship problems. Difficulty opening up emotionally often leads to divorce or social isolation. Declining mental health. Studies show higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicide among these professionals. Lessons for all of us. Even if you're not in a high-stress profession, the mechanism is the same. Suppressing emotions may work temporarily, but it's not sustainable. Just as these professionals need to balance emotional control with healthy processing, we can all adopt practices to avoid the cumulative impact of emotional repression. Essential practices: emotional decompression. Set aside regular moments to reflect and release pent-up feelings. External support. Seek help from friends, family, or therapists to create a safe space for expression. Self-compassion. Recognize that feeling emotions is normal. It's not a weakness but part of being human. Have you noticed that the more you focus on an uncomfortable emotion, the stronger it seems to grow? That's because what we give our attention to tends to amplify. The brain acts like a magnifying glass, and constant focus on emotions or symptoms reinforces their importance. How attention amplifies emotions. Imagine you feel a slight tightness in your chest caused by anxiety. If you start monitoring this symptom obsessively, wondering, is this something serious? Your brain perceives it as a threat. This triggers a heightened alert, increasing both your anxiety and the physical symptoms that come with it. This phenomenon, described by expert Joey Rameni as hyperfocus on symptoms, shows that treating sensations as problems or threats leads the brain to magnify them, creating a feedback loop that intensifies discomfort. The power of observing without judgment. The solution isn't to ignore your emotions, but to observe them neutrally. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm so anxious, this is awful," try saying, "I'm noticing anxiety in my body right now." Validate the emotion as a natural part of the human experience without exaggerating its importance. This approach is like watching a movie. You observe your emotions as a spectator without getting swept up in them. Redirect your focus. After acknowledging your emotions, consciously decide where to direct your attention. Instead of fixating on the discomfort, shift your focus to activities or thoughts that bring value to your life, such as spending time with loved ones, working on something creative or meaningful, connecting with nature, or engaging in a favorite hobby. This redirection isn't about escaping, but about choosing to prioritize what truly matters, leaving less room for uncomfortable emotions to dominate your mind. Fighting emotions like anxiety often makes the problem worse. We've seen that avoiding or suppressing feelings creates negative cycles that harm physical, mental, and emotional health. In this video, we learned that accepting and processing emotions is essential to alleviating suffering. Letting go of the rope, redirecting focus, and practicing healthy alternatives can transform how you relate to your emotions. Remember, feeling isn't weakness, it's humanity. Like, comment, and share this video to help more people. And subscribe to the channel to continue this journey toward emotional balance.